Hello and welcome. Here we are again, the Marianne and Corinna duo. And we have a really interesting question today. What is interpretation?
Mhm.
And as I said in the description, how much are we trying to make sense of events, of experiences? And so, in order to make sense, we interpret. And Marianne, why don't you take it on and run with it initially? And then we'll go into the conversation.
Thank you, Karina. Yes, interpretation, an interesting thing. As we had our weekly conversation yesterday, and often I noticed that I was repeating, yes, you see, interpretation. Yes, here we have it again, interpretation. So we looked deeper into what is it? And it became really clear for me due to several things in the last week, due to the death of my dad, as coping with family, coping with traditions, coping with all those interpretations finally.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting because noticing that in the first moment something came to me, there is a reaction. When I noticed it, a reaction. Wait a minute. Is my reaction my interpretation of the situation about the interpretation of the other one? Because it's a point of view.
Yeah.
And then questioning that, Karina, it was like, yes, but a point of view is even a more narrowed formula of the interpretation because
Mm-hmm.
we do it immediately. What is interpretation for me is in this moment, coming due to the conversation we had yesterday, is more like we perceive energies and we take those energies and then we pull them into something that matches with definitions we have or traditions we know or conclusions we have. So it is a mix of
Mm-hmm.
several energies, and then out of those interpretations, do we take a point of view? So we narrowed it into some one thing, and there we go. And
Yeah.
there we go. So that was for me an interesting way to see and to perceive and nearly getting the image of possibilities showed everything there is shown by the universe. And we pick and we pick and we pick, and then we put it together with some other picks due to definitions, conclusions, and etc. And then we find one pick, one point, and that is our point of view. And there we go. So
Or we make a blend out of the different picks
also,
that we
yes.
we make. Yeah.
And can I add something
Yeah.
more?
Yeah.
Within interpretation, it was also about influencing. Due to what are we influenced? And is it really that we are influenced, or is it due to all those interpretations and then the point of views we put out of that, that is finally what us influences?
That's yeah. In a way, you're asking the famous what comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Perhaps, yeah.
And I get it because I have been just sitting with do I attend an event and getting the event description? I was sort of going, really, you want to do that? And do I want to go then in, if you going to do that, and all of the wax and caboodle around it. And it really is an interesting process if we, instead of having a reaction, if we're willing to be present with what is going on, what energies are moving through me, what thoughts are crossing my mind, and all that stuff. And what I realized is I'm making an interpretation out of all of those things. And not that any interpretation per se is right or wrong. The question ultimately is, does it work for me?
Yeah.
Does it work for you as the individual that may have to make a decision based on those interpretations? And what is expansive and what is contractive?
Yeah. And that is up for me, Karina. And it was so clear now because it was from a more emotional point of view or experience, which emotions often leads us into rapidly interpret something and from there reacting and not being present. It takes leap quickly. So, but I chose to be present due to several decisions I had to make. For example, flying back, being with my family or not, being present on the funeral, more emotional things. But by staying really with myself, questioning, does this work for me? Does this resonate for me? Is it really kind for me? What am I choosing? Am I going with the interpretations of the definitions, the conclusions, expectations, whatever there was going on? And it was due to all those questions that I got it. Yes, it's fine. I receive and I receiving all the judgment coming my way. But hey, that's only their interpretation of what is going on in their worlds with whatever point of views they go. So what am I doing with their interpretations? Am I making theirs real and true? Or do I stay with mine and even questioning there? Is it an interpretation or is it what is really true for me? And there is a slightly different energy because I noticed that when I asked it, when it was an interpretation that was off the rock in a way, so not really true for me also, then I started to laugh. So I knew, oh yeah, there I'm going, It's only an interpretation. So what is it truly? And it allows to go deeper, having a deeper look, that's it.
Oh, sorry.
We have an expression my mom always said when we did that. Oh, that's true. Now you are telling the truth because it's blessed.
What I wanted to share is, as you were talking, I almost feel like I'm listening from two different spaces. One as this reality, and oh, is it true for me, selfish, you don't care about others? That's this reality's perspective. And then from my personal perspective, being willing to honor everything and everybody, I get that if I don't honor myself, am I truly then honoring the others?
Yeah.
And so that flips almost 180 degrees
Yeah.
what is going on. And it makes me chuckle and say, so how much are we tossed around by making it true and real and correct what this reality tells us how we are supposed to look at things? Or am I honoring what I know,
Yeah.
what I'm aware of? And that can fly in the face of what this reality says, or what our society, what our culture, however you want to define and interpret
Exactly.
reality.
Yeah. But it's interesting that you mention it, because that this reality of the selfish way going with me, yeah, that's not up in my world as I speak to the
I
me.
know.
But I notice that it is so true, because when you really function from limitation and sticking, or yeah, the only truth is that point of view without any question, that is this reality also, then you can hear it really as selfish. But it is due to what you mentioned afterwards, that honoring
Mhm.
is, am I honoring me, who I am, because I am me, but at the same time I am you. So when I honor myself, I honor you. When I respect myself, I respect you. And this particularly thing came up several times, as when I came back to Brothers and Sisters, that was the first thing I wrote also. I am aware of how it is for you, and I honor that. And
Mhm.
this is for me, and this is the choice I make.
Yeah.
But I noticed that it was important, quote unquote, but it was important for them to to get and receive the recognition, because isn't it, doesn't it, for everyone, when we are acknowledged in whatever it is, that we relax?
It allows us to relax. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And
And yeah,
yeah, go
sorry,
ahead.
there was a slightly other energy coming in, is honoring the other without a judgment. Because when you think you honor them, but there is judgment in it, then it's only throwing out something as,
Yeah.
I know that this is what you require, but hey, I don't agree, or it was really being present with no judgment. Yeah.
And what that brought up for me is that judgment, if I have judgment in my world, is that then making it selfish?
Yes.
Because I am right, you are wrong with
Yes.
your, and that's where the selfishness, if there is no judgment, if it is allowable to have that perspective,
Yes.
then it shifts it. And it shifts it into acknowledging both sides.
That that is the beauty.
Yeah,
And you can only acknowledge and honor both sides when there is no judgment.
yeah.
Yeah. So and there it is that by staying with the interpretations, Is every interpretation a kind of judgment?
I would say could be, but it doesn't have to be.
Say more.
It's basically how the premise is how much judgment is in my world. How much do I have the need to judge others? And am I basing the interpretation on the judgments that I have that come up in a particular situation? Or is there no judgment and then it's different? It becomes an honoring of both sides. It becomes an honoring of the interplay.
And then there, for me, when it's that, then there is no interpretation for me. Somehow interpretation for me in my world still is coming with opinions. An opinion is a judgment.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. It's not about it. It's more, is interpretation based on those rules of a definition of a conclusion, which are all judgments as well. So when I honor you and I honor myself, then there is no interpretation required, because we can see and be with how it is, who it is, what it is, as it is.
Yeah. And what is acknowledging what is necessary for in that situation?
I don't really get your question.
Where I was going is staying with your story. You acknowledge yourself and you acknowledge the other side in your situation. And so based on the absence, it's that acknowledgement that actually creates what needs to happen. Based on the absence of judgment, I should include that and not assume that.
Yeah, because do you know what I perceived? It's from the both sides. My side was, it gave me the space to be with all the emotions and everything that brought up. And yeah, I got much more clarity on several things. And perceiving also that it gave them the space, weird, but to go on and judge, because they judged a lot. Even they were acknowledged, there was still a lot of judgment towards me coming from their interpretations, but there was space. In a way, they could relax into all those judgment, because from my side there was nothing any longer to go against.
There was
So
no
there was no that. There was no fight. There was nothing. Everything could fly and go wherever it wanted to be. And it was all fine.
And what that just brought up for me is how much are people really getting the concept of space, of me being spacious, not just the size of my body, me having space, and me having space shifts how I look at something. If I'm looking from a very narrow perspective, or do I have a bigger perspective? It sort of brings up what I shared with you is Am I looking from the town I'm living in, looking from a close by mountain? Am I looking from Everest? The perspective, the space that I can see and perceive is quite different. And how much does that influence then my interpretation in return?
Absolutely, I agree with you. The more you allow yourself to be in a wider space, place, whatever you want to call it, it allows to perceive so much more. So everything can flow with so much more ease.
Yeah.
Because could it be also that, how we grow up was fitting in a box, in a small box. So to fit in a small box, you require quite a lot of pressure to fit in, because we are so much more than our bodies. So to fit in, we need a lot of
We need
pressure
to be pressed into the box.
pressed into the box.
Yeah.
So the interpretation could come there from as when we are functioning from a wider space, and then there is something happening that is quite emotional, for example, or messes you up in a way. Do we then have the reflection, the automatic reflection, to press something together so we can define where we are? We can define that, oh yes, now I know where I am.
Yeah.
And the interpretation is part of that pressure we require, or think we require, because it's so normal.
At least it feels normal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it is, as I see it for myself, Karina, and we have a longer time the conversation. For me, it is like training every day again, choosing to
Yeah.
be with it. And yeah, the more you practice, the more ease you get with being space, and not only in a specific, how would I say, as before, when something happened, I would choose to be space to allow the situation to heal, to reveal, or whatever was required. But once that was over, looks like, oh yeah, and then we go on with our normal. As coming now, being the space, always being space, functioning from space, not only due to some special thing, to something that occurs, or you get it, but it's not a one overnight happening. It is really, choosing to practice and practice and practice.
It's sort of like training a muscle.
It is. It
To
is.
Yeah, and how quickly, okay, I did it, I got it,
Yes.
and we're back to normal.
And
Back
it is,
to the old
as
way.
we see with interpretation, how does interpretation limit us? As the requiring that pressure, as that is our normal, we feel that is the normal. Because how many people are fine with space, with silence?
With silence, I definitely would say not many, because that was a shocking experience for me, coming from Europe, and we visit, and being new here in the US, and we visited a neighbor, and they had the TV going, which was totally unthinkable from the European perspective, that if you have guests and you have your TV going. But to me, that says I'm uncomfortable with silence. I need a noisy background.
And this is something interesting you mention now, because when I came to Portugal, which is in Europe, and I'm from Belgium, so it's not that far away. But what I noticed, I couldn't get it, that everywhere you go, whether it's in the family, in the houses, in the restaurant, in the shops, everywhere, everywhere televisions, at least two in a restaurant, even more. When there is family visiting, always television on. Having a television in the living room, in the bedroom, in the kitchen. It is crazy. And I didn't got it. Because
Yeah.
yes, I grew up with, yeah, we don't do it. When we are with family, then we are present with our guests, and we have talks, and we give them attention. But hey, yeah.
Here it's luckily a restaurant doesn't have TV. It may have music, but a sports bar or a bar does have.
That's
So if the bar has a restaurant with it, then it carries over, but it's not necessarily then the TV in the restaurant part.
yes, yes, it is.
But
And it
it's
makes sense from
really,
what we are, sorry,
yeah, no, go ahead.
it makes sense for me due to the conversation we have, because here the people, they are really suppressed, they're suppressing themselves, really hiding them from their true emotions, from their true knowing, as, yeah, being completely something else. So they
Mhm.
require also that distraction, not only the noise, but the distraction of the images and what is going on, and blah 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 blah, as seeing that the most part of what the type of television they show, it's always the journal, it's always conversations, but the ones, yeah, we are not longer interested in. So the ones who throws them down in the darkness, but the darkness from the side as not worthy,
Mhm.
and it's,
Yeah.
yeah, all the negative spiral things. But they
Mhm.
require that because that's their life.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's their life. Wow.
That's, I would say that's the modern life.
Yes. There
So
is someone knocking on your door.
there is someone seriously wanting me. So I don't know, are we complete and do we close it?
Perhaps, yes, we can close it because, yes, I have to do something else right after,
Okay.
and someone will need you.
Okay. Then we'll see you guys next week, Tuesday, 10 a.m. Mountain Time.
Yes,
Until
bye
then, and we'll
bye.
see what we cook up. Take
Yes,
care.
okay.
Bye bye.